Today I'm going to show you how to build the Hemnes. This is a shoe storage kit that's provided by Ikea. Now if you take a look here, I've got a bag of screws and a bag of other things. This is what I like to do. I like to push one screw through the bag, and what this does is by squeezing this through, it leaves me a small hole. There you go, I've got a little anchor bolt here. It leaves me a small hole that everything can slide through as I need it instead of allowing stuff to fall through. See, it's just itty bitty. But that's everything you need. There's my anchor bolt again. Alright, now you're going to find a bunch of these holes. They're all going to be pretty much the same size. We're going to put these anchor bolts. And first things first, let's go ahead and drill all these in. Next, you're going to have a bunch of dowels. The dowel holes will be a little bit bigger. And so I'm going to go ahead and slide these in. I'm doing everything by hand, one hand at a time, because the other hand is filming. But you can take these dowels, if you want to have this be a permanent thing, you can go ahead and glue the dowels in place. However, just slide them in just in case I want to take them out. Now it comes to this anchor bolt, or the anchor itself. It's got a little arrow. You want to have that arrow pointing toward the place where the anchor bolt comes in, the hole. And then it just snaps in place just like that. So let's grab a couple more of these. You're going to find all these holes are going to be the same size. Now, this kit came with longer anchors and shorter anchors. I'm using the longer anchors right now. I'm going to go ahead and take the board that I have the anchor bolt and the dowels attached to. Once again, doing this with one hand, so it takes a little bit more effort. I'm going to squeeze this together. There we go. I got the arrow lined up with the anchor bolt, and snap. There we go. So I got both sides in, a little bit more pressure, and down. Perfect. Now you just need to turn these anchors about 180 degrees, and you'll have them just right. Here I've got a screw. These are Allen screws. I'm attaching this little board that is just basically a facade for the outside. Makes it look pretty. And you can attach these screws from the back side. I have a screwdriver that has an Allen attachment, or you can use the Allen attachment, Allen screw, Allen tool that came with the kit. If you turn it this way, you got the small end. Or you can pull the sucker out, flip it around, and use the long end for more leverage. Makes it so you can do it a little bit tighter. There we go. And I like to choose this way. I'd usually just swing it around, but I'm filming, so it's a little bit harder to keep everything still and steady. Alright, here's some more of the screws. Now I'm going to do the other side, the longer board of the facade. It has 3 holes. There's one right there, right there by my hand. And then lastly one at the very end. So I'm going to attach it and I'm going to flip it over. There you go, that's going to look all pretty. Flip it over, put the screw in, line up the board on the bottom, and then I'm going to tighten it up. Once again with my screwdriver, I find it's a little bit easier than the tool that Ikea provides. And as you're tightening these in, I like to go flush and then just a little bit more. So you can feel it kind of pull into the wood. There you go. Now these things, this is what the drawers are going to snap into. These little guides. Now there are 4 of them, 2 for each side. And these little bolts that come in here, the short ones, are from the big bag are okay. But from the small bag, don't use those. Those are for something else. So I put these in upside down so you can see where the anchor is. Go ahead and flip that the other way when you're doing this. I'll flip it later on. So right now I'm installing it upside down, but that's okay. And I'll show you my torque setting on my screwdriver, my drill here in just a moment as well. Just gotta place it in, screw it up, and bada bing bada boom, it's in. Now next you have this little plunger thing. It's got a little grip on the side of it. You can see all 4 of those. You're going to place that in with the little screw hole over the side. This acts as a stopper for the drawer. So these need to be in place. There we go. Snap it in. And then line up the holes. Use the other little bolts that came with the big bag. And done. Now these ones go with these glides. Those are the ones you want to use. There we go. So these go on the inside. This is going to be for the drawer, the top drawer of the cabinet there. One on each side. Make sure the the wheels facing the front, which you pretty much have to line up the holes. Next we got some more anchor bolts to put in. We're going to be attaching the front to the back. Oh baby, move your hand out of the way. There you go. So we're going to attach the anchor bolts there. And a couple more. There we go. And once you've got those in place, you've got a couple of these. This is what's going to hold the two sides together. So same thing, make sure you got the anchor in place. Line it up, squeeze it together. Yeah, jiggle it, there you go, and then tighten it. And that anchor will hold the anchor bolt in place. Make sure you put the dowel in the right spot. If you put it on the wrong side, well, then you'll mess up where the anchor bolt's going to go. So same thing, slide it in place. Now here, I don't want you to use the double long one. I want you to use the single long anchor. Okay, so now we're going to put these in the boards that we're going to attach to the shelving unit. And these boards are the braces for the back to attach it to the wall. So you've got 2 holes for dowels, 1 hole for the anchor bolt, and then you're going to put the anchor in. This is the short anchor, remember. So once again, face the arrow toward where the anchor bolt's going to come in, and just click. Alright, guide it in place. There you go, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then turn it to 180 degrees. And snap. Now that I've got all those together, you line it all up. Now I forgot a board, see that anchor bolt that's all by itself? I'll add that later in just a second. You're going to get all these lined up, and then you'll snap it in place. What you don't see me doing is I'm going to be taking this all apart so I can put that board back in that I missed, because I didn't catch it till another minute or so from now. Alright, I just act like Wreck-It Ralph, get everything in, tighten it up. Bada bing, bada boom. There's that anchor bolt, and I think that's about when I realized that I had it in there. So when you see the film break away, that's when I'm going to install it. And I'll use the board as a hideaway so you don't see that I installed it, but you know, it's there. See? Now you can't see it, but it's there. Once you get them all installed, there you go, there's my 6 on my drill for my torque setting. Once you get it all installed, you get ready for the top. So add some dowels in all the holes. I'm doing this with one hand, but as you can see, you can squeeze it in with one hand. Got my anchor bolts in place. Once again, you could glue these dowels in place if you want it to be a permanent fix. You need an anchor on the one side and an anchor on the opposite side. Even upside down, it snaps into place and stays put. I've got it in my top. Now on the side that's facing you, notice I've got the unfinished edge. It's a little bit rougher. I also have it with the unfinished edge at the back of the shoe cabinet. Now I go to the front, and you see that's a little bit shiny. Can't tell by the light, the glare, but it is the smooth end. So we're going to take these bolts. Once we get it all snapped together, we're going to use these bolts and we're going to screw it in. But that's where it's going to line up with the hole on the top. So let's go ahead and smush this in. There's a dowel. Make sure the dowels are in place. It's pretty much the only thing that hangs me up here. I'm going to beat it like Wreck-It Ralph. And then you tighten it up. Both sides. Alright, now that I've tightened those anchors up, I'm going to go ahead and put in the Allen screws. And I'm actually using the tool because of the proximity of that board to the board behind it. Made it be hard for me to get my tool in there. On the bottom you have these anti-slip things. The disc is not too terribly important because you're screwing this up against the wall, but I put them in anyway. Why not? Now it's up against the wall. Now this screw, these screws, Ikea does not give you. This one happens to make it into the stud, and I'm not sure about the distance here, but usually, here in America anyway, the studs are 16 inches on center. So the distance between that hole and the next hole probably are 32 inches. However, I found a stud in the one, I did not find a stud in this one. So as I screw this in, it's pretty much just making it past the drywall, but not into any stud. There we go. Make it look nice. You can see it kind of pulls it into the wall. There we go. You can see it snug up. And then you've got that bottom board and you've got a top board. So I do have at least 2 of those screws anchoring it into the wall and 2 of those into the drywall. Now if as you bend this, look how that creases together so that you know you're bending it in the right direction. Then you've got the right side. See that big old R? And you've got the left side. And there's the L. Now that's the left side as you're facing the front of the drawer. So we're going to snap these into place. It's actually pretty simple if you're using both hands. But I can show you even here that you can do it with one hand. I'm just lining it up. And I just add a little pressure between up there and the floor. And you see those little snap. You can see the indentation. It goes in place. Snap, snap, snap. Turn it, make sure it's lined up also. There's a piece sticking out, and snap, and snap. So to take it apart would be fairly difficult, but pretty easy to put it together. And then you flip it around and do the opposite side. There's the left side. See, there's the L. And same thing. I'm going to put some pressure on this thing and snap. Wasn't going, so I finished around the other side. Snap, 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 and snap. Oh, there we go. Alright, flip this forward so you can see the front of it. You can kind of see the way that it's waving. The waves in the back, or curves in the back. We're going to slide the center piece in, and once you take a look at the bottom right corner, you can kind of see how the curve kind of ends into there, so you have like a half curve. You don't want it that way. So flip it around. Alright, now that you've flipped it around, now take a look at it, and you can see it ends with a curve instead of a half curve. That's the way it should be, facing the front. You have little guides on both sides. One on the right and one on the left. So go ahead and slide them in those. It's actually fairly simple. The guides line up really easy. And then you just have to worry about getting those bottom 3 snaps into place. That's a little bit harder to do. There's 1, 2, and 3. Especially if you're doing this with one hand. How about it snap? It's almost there, but not quite. So I'll do this one. And I'm pulling down on the holes that are inside the partition there. There we go. And when that snapped, the middle snapped. Now these screws right here, these are the ones you're going to need to attach the shoe holder to the shoe drawer face. Now you're going to have these old plastic bolts that you need to line up with those holes, and then you'll line up the circular ones with the place where the screws are, the screw holes. And those bolts won't go into place until you screw it in. They're kind of off the holes, at least mine were. So as I tighten this one up, that little bolt goes in a little bit, and I tighten this one up, and it goes in a little bit more. And I finished tightening it. Notice I didn't go in all the way. Now it's in, but that bolt doesn't look like it's in all the way. It's in there far enough. I flipped this around, like I told you I did it the wrong way the first time, so I flipped it so it's facing upward. Then you just guide this in place over the hole, snaps in. These are for the knobs, so you take the screw, slide it in through the back. While you're holding it in the back, then you tighten the knob in the front. I'm going to mock it because I have one hand to do it with. See, you turn it, turn it, turn it. Then you turn off the camera, tighten it, and then show it again. There are both of them. Alright, now we're going to make the drawer. So we have a couple anchor bolts. We're going to need some anchors in there. Slide those in place with the arrow pointing toward the anchor bolt. 1 and 2. And when you put this on in the drawer, you want to have it turned so the anchors are facing outside of the drawer. So take that, flip it around, bada bing, bada boom, and then turn the anchors to tighten in place. There you go. You're going to slide that board in, the baseboard. Then the backing has to go in place after you get both sides in. Then they give us these little plastic bolts. I tried what I could to get these in by hand, but it wasn't good enough with my left hand, so I went out and got my hammer and knocked them into place. And boom. And boom. There it is. Alright, so now they're in place. And now we put our rail in place. You see the flared end goes toward the front, the wheel goes toward the back. And we've got two holes that line up perfectly. It's got a little edge on the bottom that helps hold that baseboard in place. Once you screw that in, then you go ahead and put the knobs in. There are two knobs. And this is just like any other kitchen drawer that you've probably put in before. It just slides in once you put the wheels over each other. Slides in and slides out. And it looks great. Alright, so this is the Hemnes. Everything turned out pretty well. Opens up just fine and closes fine. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and like it, subscribe. I'll probably be building other things soon. This is my channel to teach you guys how to build stuff and invest in real estate. So this is all for you and learning how you can make stuff better. Beautiful. Thanks again.